Today, our group will be discussing Chapter 3 with primary focus on the Constitution and the Charter Rights and Freedoms. Our group consists of Luca, Nathan, Andrea, and Philip. The Canadian Constitution was created in 1876. As stated in class, the Constitution is the supreme law, meaning it outlines Canada's system of government of civil and human rights of those who are citizens of Canada and those who are not citizens of Canada. The Charter of Rights and Freedoms was formed in 1982. The Charter guarantees certain political and civil rights to Canadian citizens of everyone in Canada. The Charter is designed to unify Canadians around a set of principles that embody those specific rights. The Charter sets out these rights and freedoms that Canadians believe are necessary in a free and democratic society.
Here shows the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which includes guarantee of rights and freedoms, fundamental freedoms, democratic rights, mobility rights, legal rights, equality rights, official languages of Canada, minority language, educational rights, enforcement, general, and application of Charter.
The Charter states that everyone has the following freedoms: freedom of conscience and religion, freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication, freedom of peaceful assembly, and freedom of association. These rights state that all Canadians are free to follow the religion of their choice. Additionally, Canadians are guaranteed freedom of thought, belief, and expression. Since the media is an important method of communicating thoughts and ideas, the Charter protects the right of the press and other media to speak out. The rights for Canadians to gather and act in peaceful groups is also protected, along with the right to belong to an association such as a trade union. These freedoms are to ensure that Canadians are free to create and express their ideas, gather to discuss them, and communicate them widely to others. These are essential practices of individual liberty. In a democratic society such as Canada, all people must be free to discuss public policies, criticize governments, and offer solutions to social problems. As essential as these freedoms are, governments are able to limit them in circumstances such as hate propaganda.
Democratic rights of citizens contain rules that guarantee Canadians a democratic government. Section 3 states that every citizen of Canada has the right to vote in an election of members of the House of Commons or of a legislative assembly and to be qualified for membership therein. This guarantees to all Canadian citizens the right to be involved in the election of their governments. It gives them the right to vote in federal, provincial, and territorial elections, along with the right to stand for public office themselves. Some limits on these rights may be reasonable, even in a democracy. For example, the right to vote or stand for election is limited to Canadians 18 years of age or older. Section 4 states that no House of Commons and no legislative assembly shall continue for longer than 5 years from the date fixed for the returns of the writs at a general election of its members. It is a basic principle in a democracy that a government must consult the voters and stand for re-election at regular intervals. Only under extraordinary circumstances, such as a war or national emergency, may a government stay in office for a longer period. Section 5 states that there shall be a sitting of Parliament and of each legislature at least once every 12 months. This is another basic democratic principle that explains how a government must explain its actions to the people. Section 5 of the Charter makes it clear that Parliament and the legislative assemblies must hold a session at least once a year. This guarantees that elected members and the public have a chance to question government actions on a regular basis.
Mobility rights protects the rights of Canadians to move from place to place. This is comprised of the mobility of citizens, which states that every citizen has the right to enter, remain in, and leave Canada. This ensures that Canadians are free to leave and enter as they please, perhaps for vacation or employment opportunities. Also, the rights to move and gain livelihood states that every citizen of Canada and every person who has the status of a permanent resident of Canada has the right to move to and take up residence in any province and has the right to pursue the gaining of livelihood in any province. This gives Canadians the right to move to and live in any province or territory where they can look for employment or set up their own business. Limitation states that the rights to move and gain livelihood are subject to any laws or practices of general application in force in a province other than those that discriminate among persons primarily on the basis of province of present or previous residence, and any laws providing for reasonable residency requirements as a qualification for the receipt of publicly ordered social services. This means that provinces and territories may decide to give social benefits such as welfare only to people who have lived in that province or territory for a certain amount of time. They may also pass employment laws that require workers to have the qualifications necessary to practice their trade or profession. And lastly, affirmative action states that the rights to move and gain livelihood and limitation do not preclude any law, program, or activity that has its objects the amelioration in a province of conditions of individuals in that province who are socially or economically disadvantaged if the rate of employment in that province is below the rate of employment in Canada. This means a province or territory that has an employment rate below the national average can create programs that favor its own residents.
Legal rights protect Canadians when dealing with the justice system. They ensure that individuals who are involved in proceedings are treated fairly, especially those charged with a criminal offense. Section 7 states that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of the person and the right not to be deprived thereof except in accordance with the principles of fundamental justice. Section 7 guarantees the life, liberty, and personal security of all Canadians. It also requires that governments respect the basic principles of justice whenever they intrude on those rights. Section 8 states that everyone has the right to be secure against unreasonable search or seizure. The purpose of Section 8 is to protect a reasonable expectation of privacy. Section 9 states that everyone has the right not to be arbitrarily detained or imprisoned, which states that government officials cannot take individuals into custody or hold them without a good reason. Section 10 is applied when a person is arrested or detained. They have the right to be informed promptly of the reasons therefor, the right to retain and instruct counsel without delay and to be informed of that right, and the right to have the validity of the detention determined by way of habeas corpus and to be released if the detention is not lawful. Section 11 sets out several important rules that protect anyone charged with an offense under federal, provincial, or territorial law. Some of these rights include that any person charged with an offense has the right to be informed without unreasonable delay of the specific offense, the right to be tried within a reasonable time, and the right not to be compelled to be a witness in proceedings against that person in respect of the offense. Section 12 prohibits treatment and punishment by the state that are cruel and unusual. Section 13 states that witnesses who give evidence in court cannot have their testimonies used against them in other proceedings. Therefore, if the testimony of a witness shows that he or she has committed a crime, that evidence cannot be used by the prosecution to prove that the witness committed an offense. Equality rights are at the core of the Charter. They are intended to ensure that everyone is treated with the same respect, dignity, and consideration regardless of personal characteristics such as race, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, sex, age, or mental or physical disability, sexual orientation, residency, marital status, or citizenship. As a result, everyone should be treated the same under the law. Governments can also promote equality by passing laws or creating programs that aim to improve the conditions of people who have been disadvantaged because of these personal characteristics. For example, governments can create affirmative action programs targeted at increasing employment for people with disabilities.
I'm going to be giving two examples. The first one is right to be secure against unreasonable search and seizure. For example, if I'm driving down the street and I'm randomly pulled over by a police officer and they want to search my vehicle with no probable cause or reason to, if I'm not breaking any laws, I have the right to refuse the search. Police demanding to search your vehicle with no probable cause after you have verbally refused can infringe on your Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Police usually are not permitted to search your vehicle without arresting you first or obtaining a search warrant. The only way they can search your vehicle is if they have probable cause, so if they see open alcohol, drugs, or other illegal paraphernalia. The individual may then go about his affairs after dealing with the officer. If the officer is still thinking there's a law being broken, he will then have to go about getting a search warrant for the vehicle. This law also applies to many other scenarios like your home. The next example is freedom of speech. If I express my opinion saying I'm voting for a certain political party and state my reasons for choosing that party, and in the meantime I upset and offend some other people around me, and they are in complete disagreement with my thoughts and opinions, I have the right to express and articulate my opinions, thoughts, and ideas, as that is my right without fear of retaliation, censorship, or legal sanction. One needs to be careful as freedom of speech and expression may not be recognized as common limitations and boundaries have to be crossed when it comes to libel, slander, obscenity, and defamation of character. Thank you everyone for listening to our presentation.